Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're finally here. We are finally on episode 55, season 3, episode 18, Midnight Sun. I have some theories about what Midnight Sun means, but I'm going to save those, and I've got my little notes here. I did take a couple little notes I'm going to talk about before we start, because I've spent the last 2 days watching episodes 16 and 17 back to back. Great decisions. Great decisions. I see why y'all were really hyped for this part of the season, because oh my god, 16 and 17 were amazing, and we're not done yet. So I have some things to note here, but I couldn't wait. Obviously, today has been torture. I have literally been at work all day sitting there going, episode 18 when we doing this, and so now here we are. So oh my gosh, I'm so ecstatic. I'm so ready. But Midnight Sun, this episode, I've been hyped for this episode for a while. I don't know what's gonna happen. Obviously, I have theories. I talked about it in the last episode. I have theories. Levi has a syringe. Will we use it on Erwin? We gonna use it on Armin? Are they gonna convince him to use it on somebody else? I don't know. What are the consequences of them using it? There's clearly consequences. So I didn't really get into that last episode because I was so hyped. By the end of it, I was like, oh, there's possibilities. But yeah, from Eren's perspective, it's gonna be hard, because the idea of injecting someone with this Titan serum that's gonna turn them into a Titan, and they're gonna eat Bertolt. So our crew barely could get over the fact that they had to kill Reiner, and now they're gonna sit there and watch somebody eat Bertolt, like Bertolt, Annie, and Reiner sat there and watched Marco get eaten. So it's gonna be the parallels. I'm gonna make a note about Marco before we start. Just going back to that. But yeah, so obviously I've been hyped for this episode because y'all said I could watch the OP after this episode. And I was like, okay, well, stuff goes down clearly between the start of the season and episode 18. And then y'all were like, oh, you can watch the mid-credits scene after this episode. And I was like, okay. So we're going to do that in this reaction. I am going to go back, hopefully, if I remember to, at the very end of the reaction here, the very end of the episode, I'll go back to the OP and watch it. And then if not, I'll make a note to remember the OP and the mid-credits. Yeah. But I'm so excited. Lots of reasons. The rule of 6 with Isayama and Attack on Titan. Episode 6 of season 1 was the world the girls saw. It was our introduction to the idea and the theme of the cruel world that has carried over into the last several episodes. So episode 6 of season 1 introduced that, right? Eren had been eaten. It seemed like all hope was lost. And then suddenly in the next following episode, there came the knight in shining armor, which was Eren, right? Episode 6 of season 2 was Warrior. We found out about Bertolt and Reiner, that they were the colossal and armored Titan. Stuff went down. Episode 6 of part 1 was Sin, where we learned about Grisha and Eren, and stuff went down. And then we have this episode, which is the 6th episode of season 3, part 2, Midnight Sun. Lots of stuff to think about, right? So there's that. I do want to make a comment, though, that it's fascinating, and I'll talk more about it at the end of this reaction, but the idea of Bertolt in episode 15, it was called Descent, and it was kind of like our descent on this roller coaster into madness, but it was also kind of Bertolt's decision technically could have been his descent to his doom, right? Because Bertolt made the decision not to talk with Armin. God, if Armin gets this serum, it's going to be the most ironic thing ever, and we'll talk about it. But Bertolt making the decision not to talk with Armin and not to negotiate, he descended with his choice, and it's led to his downfall. Supposedly, Reiner can't transform because he's injured, but he has the ODM gear still, so he could swoop down and get Bertolt somehow, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think so. And Zeke has gone off with the quadruped Titan taking him off, so they're out of commission. So there's that. But technically, if we're doing the 3-act structure, either this episode or the next episode is going to be the end of Act 2, leading into Act 3, which is the end of the season. So there's that. My heart is telling me that this is going to be the end of Act 2, and it's going to lead us into Act 3. Now, what that looks like, I don't know, but that's just the feeling that I have. And then I do want to say I'm sorry for your ears. The last episode when I was editing, I was like, God, you screamed. I screamed a lot in the last episode, mainly when Eren showed up from behind Bertolt, because it was so perfect, but I hadn't been expecting it up until that point. And so I realized I screamed really loudly. So for those of you that didn't see the headphone warning or didn't quite realize how explicit I was being, I'm sorry. I apologize for your ears. From here on in, just note, there's probably going to be a headphone warning. I'm probably going to scream. I'm going to try to rein myself in, but I doubt that's going to happen. I was pretty feral last episode, and it's probably not going to go away. So there's that. The last thing I want to say before we start, though, is I've noticed, how do y'all not like Armin? I haven't asked my brother this because I haven't talked to my brother since I haven't told my brother I've watched episode 17 yet. I was going to wait till after this episode and talk with him about it. Because I've heard that episodes 16, 17, 18, from those in the comments, they were like, I'm really excited for you to get to a set of 3 episodes. I'm assuming it's this set, but I could be wrong. I assume Sin and Wish were the main end-all be-all episodes, and then Friends and Bystander came along, so I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong. But I haven't talked to my brother yet. But my brother's not a big fan of Armin. And I was like, how? Armin, it's funny because Eren is our main protagonist. He's supposed to be our main character. But you could argue that a lot of these characters are the main character. Levi could be the main character because we see a lot from his point of view. Historia, a lot of it was from her point of view. We could see her being the main character. And in the last 3 episodes, Armin was really the main character. So I'm like, how do you not like Armin? Like, Armin was so self-sacrificing in the last episode. He gave up on his dreams and gave his life for his friend because he knew Eren could probably do what he couldn't. I'm like, I love Armin, and I'm gonna be really sad if he dies. I don't think he's gonna die. I don't think he is. My heart's like, no! I'm like, but I don't know. But I'm like, how can you not like Armin? And here's the thing. Armin has been our narrator up until this point. I'm like, I can't foresee him dying since he's been the narrator. I could be wrong. I know a lot of you in the comments will be like, well, there's many anime where the main character dies. Yes, I just don't see Isayama doing that. I feel like he's setting stuff up, and I'll probably talk in the recap about it, but I feel like stuff's being set up, right? But what the vibes I was getting from the end of this episode, and I thought about it all day today, but Isayama is a big fan of Game of Thrones. And so he derives a lot from like medieval fantasy in this story. I've noticed there's a lot of like medieval fantasy, and one big reference that I've seen in the last couple episodes, and it's kind of funny, is like Lord of the Rings. And I'm sure it's not a direct reference, but all I could think about in the last episode, thinking about Armin being the narrator, is Armin's kind of like Frodo Baggins. Frodo's like our main character. He's the narrator of the story. We see a lot from his perspective. But he's not the big hero, the kingly figure, right? That's Aragorn. And Aragorn reminds me a lot of Eren in some ways, shapes, and forms. So it's not a perfect metaphor. It's not a good analogy. But in thinking about it today, I'm like, Armin's kind of like Frodo Baggins. He's kind of like Frodo. He has this big weight on his shoulder to try to help people out. Frodo wasn't really a strategist, but he was still a big player in the entire story, like the big player. And then Eren kind of reminded me of Aragorn. Like, he has a big chip on his shoulder. He has a big boulder that he has to push up a hill. He's got a lot that he has to prove, and he has to prove that he's capable of it. It reminded me a lot of that. And then Mika says Legolas, so... No, but it's not a perfect metaphor, but that's all I could think about today. I was like, which just makes me want to watch Lord of the Rings all over again. But that's a different discussion. We are on episode 55, y'all, and I've been so anxious, excited. I'm going to forewarn you all right now. Guard your ears, gird your loins, guard your ears. I don't know what's going to happen, but I was like, I'm going to pour myself a drink. Midnight sun. All I can think of is Twilight. Again, another discussion. So I'm done talking. It's 10 minutes. Let's do this. So we are going to start episode 55, Midnight Sun. Oh, I'm so excited, y'all. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm ready. I'm ready. So we're going to dive in and just see what happens. So we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And again, I'll see y'all on the other side. Well, damn. I'm pretty speechless. It took you 3 seasons in 18 episodes, Attack on Titan, but you finally made me misty-eyed. And I'm probably going to cry going back through this, because now that's the thing. Like this, it's not, when it's a hype episode, when it's really a hype episode and there's all this adrenaline and everything kicking in and it's really exciting and stuff, when characters die during those type of episodes, it doesn't get to me because you're so hyped and everything. But when it's a quiet episode like this and you have time to sit down and think about it and it all starts to sink in, then it really hurts. And oh my God, Isayama. I don't know if I'm going to bring Whiteboard Kun out or not. I might let Whiteboard Kun sit this one out. I don't know. But there's so much. And going back to that OP. Okay, first of all, I'm so glad I didn't watch that OP until now. I was like, that would have spoiled everything. That would have ruined the whole Bertolt reveal, them versus Bertolt, and the whole thing with Reiner and Eren. That would have ruined a lot of things. And even they cut to the juxtaposition of Bertolt's face next to Armin's. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, there's still some things that we don't know yet because we still have 19, 20, 21, and 22. We still have 4 more episodes left. So we're just now, we're definitely getting into the third act after this. And this was the end of Act 2. I guess you could argue it could be this season, is the end of Act 2 of the whole series. Maybe this episode's the kickoff of the conclusion to it. I don't know, but Isayama, there's so much in this episode. It was just line after line after line of just is so good. And I talked about it at the end of the last episode. I was like, well, it's going to be Erwin or Armin. But the dilemma, FLOCH. We finally get the redhead kid's name, FLOCH. I was like, okay. All right, his character and the whole message about becoming a demon. And it's going to tie back to episode 15. It's just, there's a lot in this episode. There's a lot. The moment that the OP didn't happen and it started playing the credits and y'all, Christopher Peterson warned me. He's like, well, it's really tense when they start out with the OP, but when there is no OP, that's when you know things are going down. And I was like, oh, when are we going to get that? And the whole thing about Midnight Sun. And in the OP, you see kind of it. But it's the idea of, the sun, I always link the sun with the Titans. But if it's midnight, it's like you're safe, right? And it's going to tie back, that whole idea of the sun and safety is going to tie back to what Eren said. What Eren said about Armin, that he's going to be the savior of humanity. Oh, honey. Oh, there's so much. The recap. Oh, God. There's a lot going on in my brain right now. And I'm like, we're going to have to go back through this episode. But I was like on the verge of tears by the end of it. And it's probably going to happen again going through this because when we start to break it down. Attack on Titan, Isayama, my dude. But yeah, Marco. The parallels of Bertolt to Marco, the way that they both died. And it's funny in the most ironic way that Bertolt dies asking for Reiner and Annie and Bertolt's help, and they just watch him get eaten because he knew too much. And in Bertolt's case, he had outlived his use to Zeke, and they let him. And Zeke didn't take him. Zeke didn't try to take him. That's the thing. Zeke was like, "Well, you're done," and just let him go. I was like, Zeke, my dude. I feel like I don't know. I feel like at that point. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to have to bring Whiteboard Kun out, aren't I? I'm going to have to bring him out. Because Zeke, there's so much to happen this episode. There's so many lines, the characters. I haven't watched the mid-credit scene yet, so we're going to go back through that by the end of this. But, okay. We're going to have to bring Whiteboard Kun out. This episode was so good. It was so good. This may be one of my favorite episodes. It may be one of my favorite episodes in the series. And it's crazy because it's so low key. There's no, Zeke showing up at the beginning is the major action scene. And then of course Zeke taking Reiner back, which of course he took Reiner back. But God, there's so much to talk about. And that was the main, but this episode wasn't really action. It was between all of them to decide who we give. It's kind of like, who do we curse? Who do we curse? Who do we give this power to? And by the end of it, God, Erwin's dead. And Moblet's dead. I'm gonna add them. It's paining me to add Erwin to the list of the fallen, but we gotta do it. We gotta do it, don't we? Yep, Moblet and Erwin. Yeah. There'll be a special tribute for him in the recap. I'm just gonna say that. A special tribute to Erwin in the recap. If not before then, but probably in the I'll probably save it for the recap because I've got some filming to do. But okay. Where do we start? We just need to go through in a linear fashion because there's so much to this episode. We just need to go through in a linear fashion. No OP. None to worry about. That's when you know it's real. But God, this episode was brutal. And it was just brutal. And Eren realizing that his best friend is right beside him, charred to a crisp. And God, him and Mikasa. And I hate seeing Eren look so sad. Like Eren looking heartbroken. It's worse than Wish and Sin. Because then Eren felt sorry for himself. And here he's mourning the loss of his friend. It's like, and it's not rage mode Eren. It's not rage mode Eren. It's nothing like that. It's just him being sorrowful. And saying, I should have known this would happen. And then, yeah, Bertolt's passed out there. And he's like, I had to rely on you in that moment. And him asking, why didn't you run? Why don't you run away? But then, yeah, no time for that. Because there's damn Zeke showing up with the old platypus titan. And he's been strapped to the box. And the platypus titan's going after. And of course, yeah, smart on Eren to grab Bertolt and be like, screw you. And what a shot. What a shot, that damn platypus titan. What a shot of the quadruped. And then Eren with the blade to Bertolt's throat. And oh my God, I feel like this is like the most epic meeting of Zeke and Eren. I was wondering a couple episodes ago, I'm like, will Eren ever meet the Beast Titan? Will Eren meet Zeke? He does. And we finally get it. So we need to talk about this. There's a lot going on in this episode. So the first things first, we have Zeke and Eren. That's the first thing we have is their meeting. And oh my God. And Eren's like, yeah, I'm going to kill him if you even try to get close to me. And here's the thing. The funny thing is Eren looking, and I said back in episode 11 in Bystander, Eren has his dad's hair and his eye color, but his features are very much like Carla's. He has Carla's eye shape and he has Carla's face shape as well. Like there are times in episode 11 where I was like, okay, Eren looks like Grisha, but he mainly looks like Carla. And he has that fierce look. And I don't think we've ever seen Grisha with that fierce look like Eren has, like the Rage Mode Eren. And then Eren's like, oh, he has Titan marks too. And you see Zeke with the cut on his lip. And then Eren's like, is he the Beast Titan? Eren makes the connection. And Zeke looks like he's seen a ghost. And he asks him if he's Eren. And he says, I'm taking him with me. And he says, you look nothing like your father. Oh, that line. And Eren's like, excuse me? Yeah. And Eren's like, who the hell are you? How do you know my dad? And then, yeah, Zeke says, I know what you're going through. And he says, we're both victims of your father. I'm like, what? Why are we blaming Grisha for everything? Old Zeke's over here. Old Zeke is over here like Rod Reese. Just shoving blame onto Grisha. From beyond the grave. Grisha can't do anything about it. And then saying that both Eren and him are victims of Grisha? Why? I don't understand. Yeah, and says you've been brainwashed by him. Okay. And that cut from Zeke to Grisha, they look really similar. They look really similar in that shot from Zeke to Grisha. They have the same eyes, but Eren doesn't have those eyes. But Zeke and Grisha have the same eyes. Are they related? Are Zeke and Grisha related? What? Are they related? That cutaway, they had like the same face. Oh my god. So Zeke's saying that Eren's been brainwashed by Grisha, and Zeke has beef with Grisha, clearly saying that they're both victims of him. Oh my god. And I don't know, it was either last episode or a few episodes ago, I was talking about the Beast Titan and how he was weirding me out because I couldn't get a read on him. I think it was episode 16. I couldn't get a read on him. And I kept saying he was like the funny, like Kenny's like the funny uncle, and he's really the uncle to Levi. Could Zeke be Eren's uncle too? Are we getting into this? I don't know. Oh my god. Okay, so could they be related? We don't know Zeke's last name. Could it be Jaeger? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna lose my voice. And then Eren's like, what the hell are you talking about? And that's when Zeke notices that Levi's up on, and Levi's killed all of the other Titans. But he didn't say FLOCH. No, and FLOCH, we get his name. But yeah, Levi did not save FLOCH. He was like, nah, I gotta get back here. Gotta get back here to check out Eren's situation and chase after the Beast Titan. But he's pretty much spent. Other than he had enough gas to get over to Eren. And then Zeke's like, we'll call it a draw. Because he can't fight and Zeke can't fight and Levi can't fight. And so here's the thing, the quadruped Titan really only has its mouth. That's really the only way it can fight and do anything. But I'm amazed in this moment that Zeke sacrifices Bertolt. He leaves Bertolt. He said, I'm sorry, but I think it's the end for you. Like Zeke, he left Bertolt to die. Or not to die. Well, okay, but here's the thing. Zeke did not know about the serum. He didn't know that they had it. Because I was debating that in the moment. I was like, thinking about this going, Zeke just left Bertolt to die. Like, he was like, well, he's going to get killed. He left him to die. So, oh man, we're going to talk about Reiner and all this too. But yeah, Zeke left Bertolt to die. But Zeke did not know that they had the serum. So as far as Zeke knows, because I was questioning why he didn't have the quadruped just try to get Bertolt in that moment. And he didn't, because he was probably thinking, well, if the quadruped tries to strike, Eren's going to kill Bertolt. And I was like, well, why would you want Eren to kill Bertolt? Why can't you just snatch him away? But Zeke was basically sacrificing a chess piece. Zeke was sacrificing the queen piece, being like, I got my other pieces, I'm going to peace out. Bye. He was going to sacrifice Bertolt because he thought that it wasn't going to matter. He's like, well, there's nothing we can do. They're going to kill Bertolt anyway. So the power's just going to die. Zeke, you just made a huge mistake. Zeke just made a very big boo-boo. A very big mistake. Because I'm like, you just gave that power to the other side. Like the power of the strongest Titan to the other side. I'm so fascinated by this decision. And I'm like, #no regrets. I am wondering if Zeke is going to have to deal with the consequence of him leaving Bertolt. Because here's the thing. When Reiner comes to, Reiner was like on the verge of passing out anyway. When Reiner comes to, he's going to find out that Bertolt didn't come back. He's going to find out that Zeke left him. And Reiner, I don't think knows about the serum either. But Reiner, he's going to be pissed off that Zeke let Bertolt die. And Bertolt! I gotta add Bertolt to the dead! Oh my god! Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead! Man, it's funny. It's funny. Way back when I was doing the other recaps and I was like, man, Bertolt and Annie is a great ship. And y'all were like, really? We don't see it. It's like, but several of you were like, we see Armin and Annie as a ship. And I was like, oh no! Now it has a whole new meaning. I'm like, oh god, oh no. Armin and Annie could be a ship, but super awkward. Super awkward. Be like, hey, this guy's in my head now. He apparently has a... Oh, I wonder if you... Because, Eren took the power of the coordinate and gained all the memories from it. I wonder if now that Armin's taken Bertolt, if, some of that's going to influence and Armin's going to have, a crush on Annie, and it's going to be, influenced by Bertolt, and he doesn't realize it. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's curious, and I'm like, about that. So, oh my god. But yeah. So, Zeke just leaves Bertolt. He says, I'm sorry, but I think it's the end for you. And then he just casually, pieces out. But he says, someday I'm coming back to rescue you. To rescue him. Planting a seed there, right? And Eren's like, excuse me? And then he just pieces out to go find Reiner. Because that was his other thing. He ran. And I want to make note of that. That Zeke ran. And we tie that. We're going to put old Armin in the center here. Armin did not run. He did not, but Zeke ran. Zeke ran to fight another day. But yeah, so coming to rescue Eren. So clearly Zeke thinks, so that adds another layer to this. Zeke thinks that Eren is legitimately in danger, possibly from being used by humanity. I could see that. I could see Zeke not wanting Eren to be used by humanity. If it turns out that Zeke and Eren are related, then I could definitely see that. So you have that going on. But also, my dog. But also he could be tricking Eren and planting a seed of doubt there. So Eren having a seed of doubt. And I want to make note of that. The whole idea of Eren being rescued. That adds another twist to this, right? That adds another twist to all this. Because when you think back, we've been thinking this whole time that Eren's been kidnapped. He got kidnapped by Annie and he got kidnapped by Rod Reese. And everybody joked around. They're like, Eren's getting kidnapped left and right. And you could argue Rod Reese did, in fact, kidnap him because he was going to kill him. But Zeke could make the argument, if he ever sees Eren again, he could make the argument and say, oh, we weren't trying to kidnap you. We were trying to rescue you from whatever humanity's going to do to you. We were trying to save you. Not, we just couldn't talk to you because you were in enemy territory and you were surrounded by the enemy. We didn't have time to tell you these things. And he could tie back to Warrior when in Warrior, oh my god, I'm seeing the seeds being planted. I am seeing the seeds being planted right now of what Zeke would maybe want to do. That we have the seeds from that episode. And I want to make little sprouts. So there's that. But I could see in the episode Warrior, because if you think back, Reiner at first didn't try to take Eren away. He offered his hand out to Eren and was like, hey, listen, this is what we've been doing. If you come with us, the walls won't have to be destroyed. Eren did offer him that, or Reiner offered Eren that. Reiner was like, if you just come with us and come back with us to our hometown, we won't have to kill any more people. He offered him that. And I see the seeds being planted here that if Zeke wanted to, since he has Reiner, him and Reiner could talk about that, and I could see him going back. If him and Eren ever meet again, I could see Zeke being like, we tried to get you to come with us. Ooh, we tried. I could see him saying, we tried to get you to follow us and come back with us, but you were a slave to this notion of freedom and getting rid of us. And you could have spared all these lives if you had just came with us from the beginning, but you didn't. And now look what happened. I can see that. This Zeke guy, he seems like a manipulator. He seems like... the Zeke guy gives me the vibes of a man that has been wronged. He's been wronged by the system. And he thinks maybe he's taking it out on Grisha. Maybe not. Maybe it's more to it than that. Maybe when we get to the damn basement, we'll find out. We're still not there yet. But it seems to me like Zeke has this chip on his shoulder that he has been wronged and he's made it a do or die mission to destroy humanity and take back Eren. But maybe that's it. Maybe he thinks he's going to try to woo Eren over to their side by just saying, like, we tried to help you and get you to come over, but you just didn't do it. I don't know. I'm seeing the basis of something, like a foreshadowing that something's going to happen with that. And it's all going to tie back to Warrior. Isayama has been known to tie back from the very beginning like he does in this damn episode. So it's no reason to think he won't tie back to that conversation with Reiner and Eren. I'm guaranteeing it. But yeah, Zeke gets away. And then in comes Levi. And I like that they just kind of like move... They just move Bertolt around wherever. They just pick him up and they're like, here you go. Just like shoves his torso around and he's just passed out. And so at first, Levi's like, I'm out of gas. And he asks for Eren's blades and his gas. And Eren is like, gonna do it. But then that's when they hear Armin. And Armin takes a big breath. And that's when they hear him, and that's when it stops. Because, I mean, the Beast Titan's getting away. You could argue... Here's the problem. You could have argued, what would have happened if Levi had chased the Beast Titan? I feel like in this episode, I feel like we've set up all these different timeline scenarios of what could have been, right? Of what could have been. And rather than flip this over, because that takes a lot of time... I put Armin in the center and now I've got to erase him. But there's all these different what-if scenarios in this episode. This episode was all about choices being made. And the characters making these choices, they have to live with them. # no regrets. And there's so many different times during this episode where a character could have made a choice and it could have gone one way or it could have gone another way. So, for example, you had Levi, if he had gotten the gas, he could have taken it off after the Beast Titan. And then here's the funny thing. The Beast Titan was heading to Reiner, so he could have gotten over with Reiner and Hange. And in that moment, I feel like when they went to get the syringe, I feel like Hange was going to become a Titan. I feel like Hange was making the decision to become a Titan. That's what I feel like was going to happen. Hange was going to make the decision and do it. So if that scenario had happened, then we could have had Hange as... the armored Titan. But then in that same scenario, you would have had Armin and Erwin die. Because lo and behold, if that had happened and Levi was gone, FLOCH would have shown up with Erwin and they would have been gone. And he would have been like, oh, well, we can't do anything. And then they would have died. And Bertolt would have still been there. So they probably would have killed Bertolt too. Probably. Because Bertolt's too dangerous to be left alive. But we don't know if they would have killed Bertolt. But the point is, if we had gone with that timeline, then yeah, Reiner could have died and Hange could have become the Armored Titan. That'd have been crazy. But we don't know if that whole timeline would have even happened. He could have chased after the Beast Titan and the quadruped could have killed him. We don't know that because Levi was on his last leg, so Levi could have died, but Mikasa was there. There's so many like what if scenarios and like butterfly effect, but we don't know if this would have even gone down because Mikasa could have gotten injured, Jean could have died, Levi could have died. This whole thing could have been screwed up. And then in the process, the Beast Titan could have got Reiner and the serum and left. So that timeline's a bad timeline. I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad that didn't work out, right? I'm glad we didn't go down that route. That seems like it would have been a very bad decision. But Midnight Sun. And it's funny because it's like at midnight, it's like the clock strikes 12 and a new day starts. So there's a lot of symbolism there too. Like it's midnight, Erwin's time ends and a new time begins. So Erwin's leadership in the Survey Corps ends. And then it starts with, I'm assuming Hanji's going to take his place. And Bertolt's time ends. And Armin takes over. And we'll talk about all the symbolism with that because it's pretty crazy. And then the one battle ends and another battle is set to begin, right? Because we reclaimed Puella Maria. We sure did. But, the cost, Shiganshina's wrecked. It's just beyond repair. They're going to have to demolish it. And so, them catching Reiner, the metal case in his left chest pocket. And so Reiner, they blindfolded him so he can't see. And his arms and stuff are gone. And they captured him and they cut his arms and legs off. Because in the last episode, his arms and legs were still there. They cut his arms and legs off so that he couldn't get away. Before we chopped off all your limbs, you tried to grab it with the strength you had left. is it suicide pills or bomb? And here's the sad thing. The sad thing in all of that is that Hange thinks it's a weapon. They think it's something dangerous, like suicide pills or a bomb. It's a letter. It's a letter to Historia from Ymir. And Reiner kept it safe for her. That's why back in the episode, oh my God, that's why back in the episode of episode 15, when him and Bertolt are leaving each other and they're about to go, Reiner does this. He hits his chest in the left spot. And at the time I was like, what is he doing? Because he's not doing the Sasagio, like devote your hearts. He's doing this. He was tapping the tin with the letter in it, saying we have to get back to Krista to deliver the letter. Well, hell! Now I feel bad for Reiner because he was trying to deliver that letter, whatever the contents are. I'm really curious. Hange has the letter, and they said they were going to read it before giving it to Historia. I'm curious about two things. One, the fact that Ymir gave Reiner the letter, does that mean that Ymir is dead? Either Ymir is being held prisoner by wherever Zeke and them are from. Either Ymir is being held prisoner, or they're dead, or she's dead. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, will Hange actually give Historia the letter, or is Hange going to tear it up? And I'm going to be mad if it's the latter. Because if Ymir wrote the letter to Historia, I want her to get it. But if Hange reads it and thinks that it's going to sway Historia one way or the other, is she going to destroy the letter? That's the sad part. That's the cruel. That would be so cruel, Isayama. Like, how dare you? But I wouldn't put it past him. So I'm curious to know if we're actually going to get that or not. Ugh. But yeah. So Jean is injured. And they say that it's a letter from Ymir. A letter from Ymir to Historia. But he says Krista because he doesn't acknowledge her as Historia yet. And he tells them that they have to give it to her. Yeah. And then Hanji's like, well, we will once we've inspected it. And Reiner doesn't say anything, so I guess he's assuming there's nothing majorly wrong with it. And then she's like, Hanji's like, I got a mountain of questions for you, but your lips seem as tight as your armor is hard. Are you going to cooperate and tell us everything we want to know? And he says no. Yeah. And in that moment, yeah, so Reiner and Bertolt, they weren't going to say anything. No. And then in that moment, Hanji's like, well, thanks. Because now that I'm going to kill you, I don't feel bad because I know that there was no other way. So Hanji's like, and in that moment, Bertolt ends the dialogue. Or Reiner ends the dialogue. Reiner says no to the dialogue. In that moment, Hange gives Reiner an option, saying, if you want to talk this out and negotiate with us, we can maybe do something. And he says no. Nope. And so in that moment, Hanji's like, well, I tried to have a dialogue with you. It didn't work. So leaving you alive is a problem. So we need to just kill you now. And so Hange goes to kill him. And Jean says to hold on, saying that we could steal his power. And in that moment, I was like, so Jean knows about the serum. I didn't realize that everyone knew about the serum. Erwin, it's funny because Erwin played some cards close to the chest, but other cards, Erwin was like, no, I don't want to reveal this. Or he'd plot things around and give people pieces of information that others he did not. But with the serum, he told everyone. I'm assuming because they were like, well, if something happens and we have to use it, everybody needs to know about it. And so they can tell Levi. Again, giving a huge amount of burden to Levi. But so Jean knowing about it in this moment, I was like, oh, wait, what? And saying that we could steal his power. And Hanji is going, And Jean's, yeah. And so then we get the maximum value from this injection. And Erwin and all of them. Yeah, so they basically said what we've been saying the last couple episodes, that any power could be stolen, and they established it. I'm honestly surprised at how calm Eren was during this scene, that he was just kind of accepting it, especially after Sin and Wish with everything with Historia. But I guess because they explain the process and they know what's going on, and that it is literally a last-ditch effort. But Erwin ties it to a way that they can gain information regarding the Titan powers. Well, hopefully they gain a lot from the Colossal Titan in this regard, because here we go. Armin's got it now. But yeah, and then we see FLOCH with Marlowe, and FLOCH looks weirded out by this whole process. FLOCH looks like, this is weird. We're going to talk about FLOCH. He's interesting. But they could revive a person on the brink of death. But then, yeah, then there's the question of, is it a life worth living, right? Right? And we'll talk about that. But yeah, if you capture an enemy with Titan power, sever all their limbs, which they did to Reiner, which they did to Bertolt, and which they've done to the Beast Titan. So it's no coincidence that they all ended up without limbs. That was the plan from the start. Genius. Makes sense. Yep. And then when it's safe to do so, summon Captain Levi. And he'll be the one in charge of it. And Erwin giving him that power. And we only have this one injection. Jeez. Yep. And then Hange's like, I don't think all the conditions for that have been met. So Hange was saying, yeah, Hange's like, we don't need to be hasty and use this injection immediately, because Hange's like, we don't even know what's happening on the other side. Yeah, we don't know what Levi's situation is. So Hange's like, nor do we have time to go confirm it ourselves. There's no way for us to gauge the full depth of their powers. Yeah, Hange's like, we need to do this now. If I cut his head off, we can't be too sure. And then Jean in that moment, this is so interesting, Jean's decision. Because you have to wonder why Jean making the decision with the injection for Reiner is fascinating. And I wanted to think about it and talk about it with you all because there's lots of reasons. Is it because he feels sorry and doesn't want Reiner to die? Is that it? I don't know. The way he looks. But then there's also the idea where he's like, this isn't like you, Hange. And he makes note in that moment. He's like, Hange, you're not being yourself. If we back down because of not knowing something, down the line, can we ever hope to beat the Titans? So it's like he calls Hange out for abandoning their principles. And I know that I'm writing this awful. It's not even worth reading. But yeah, he's calling Hange out for abandoning their principles and saying, John's like, this just isn't right. When are we ever going to know all there is to know about the enemy? So yeah, we need to know. We need to know about the Titans. So in a way, it's almost like John's wanting to create that dialogue, but he's wanting to create it by having the Titan powers, go to someone else. And that look on Hange's face, you know that they think that Jean's right in that moment, and that's when Hange tells Mikasa to go see what the situation with Eren and Levi and them are. And Mikasa makes note that she has literally no gas left, but she should be able to reach Eren. And Hange's like, okay, go find that out, see what's happening. I don't have any gas left. Go see what the situation is. If they're not going to use the serum over there, then tell Levi to come back and use the serum here. Give it, and if that's not going to work, then give us a signal and I'll kill Reiner. Yep. And in that moment, Jean is like, oh, and you get the impression from Jean that he realizes that he has been responsible for this decision being made. That's the signal to end Reiner, right? And so, #no regrets. And Jean, seems worried, but Hange's like, the decision was mine to make. That Hange's decision to wait. Because if you think about it too, in that there's a big what if scenario there. What if Jean hadn't told her to make that decision and she would have killed Reiner? But then here's the thing. That's probably a tough decision too, because if Jean hadn't said anything, Reiner would have died. Right? But also in the same vein, so could Hange, Mikasa, and Jean. Because if you think about it, the Beast Titan would have showed up anyway. Hange didn't have any gas left. Jean was injured. And Mikasa was injured too and didn't have any gas left. So Mikasa only had enough gas left to get back to Eren and Armin. So if you think about it, in both of these what-if scenarios right now, Reiner would have been dead. Which, who knows, in hindsight, maybe that would have been the best thing to happen. I don't know. But in both of these what-if scenarios, Reiner dies, but then potentially so does all these other players, right? Because yeah, if the Beast Titan on the quadruped had showed up, Mikasa wouldn't have had a lot of gas to fight. Maybe Mikasa could have hurt Zeke in the quadruped. We don't know. Or she could have got her arm bit off. We don't know. Jean was in no position to fight. Hange had no gas. So Hange could have died. Jean could have died. Mikasa maybe would have gotten away. But then you would have lost Reiner. So all of these decisions, it's so funny how this story works. There's all these what-if scenarios. But in these so far, you lose so many pieces on the chessboard. When in reality, because of Jean's decision to spare Reiner until they found out whether or not to use the serum, because of Jean's decision, he potentially saved their lives. Because when the Beast Titan showed up, he just wanted to get Reiner and go. That's all he wanted to do. The Beast Titan wasn't in any place to fight. He just wanted to grab Reiner and go. And the quadruped couldn't attack Jean, Mikasa, and Hange because they had Reiner in its mouth. I assume it's a he. We assume the quadruped is a he. Might not be. But in that case, the quadruped couldn't attack the three of them because they were carrying Reiner. If they'd killed Reiner and Zeke had shown up, then yeah, that quadruped tried to eat Levi. It could have attacked any of them. So honestly, their decision, it let Reiner go, yeah, but it potentially saved all their lives. Because all the Beast Titan wanted to do was get Reiner and exit out. So interesting how that all works out. But then Hange says you were just a factor. Like you were not the reason I made this choice. I made this choice for me. Like Hange very much like Levi has no regrets. Like Hange's like, nah, I made my decision. And there's a part of me that thinks Hange wanted to make the decision that Jean makes, but Hange had the fear, right? Hange was afraid in that moment of what Reiner could do. And when you look back at the end of the episode, Hange had lost Moblet. God, R.I.P. Moblet. Hange had lost Moblet, had lost these people around her. So Hange was letting that fear help determine their decisions. And it was Jean's rationality, Jean's intuition that brought Hange back to making a better decision in the long run. I want to point out that I'm really, really excited, especially now that we know Armin's going to live. I'm really excited to see this dynamic with Armin and Jean, because I think it could be really cool moving forward. I really love the dynamic of Jean and Armin to begin with, but I think moving forward, it could be very interesting because now you have a Titan shifter that Jean doesn't argue with all the time, like Eren. And him and Armin could come up with some really good strategies, which they'll need now because Erwin's dead. And Hange's in charge. And I like that we're saying, it's kind of a foreshadowing too, that Hange can let fear get to them and sway their decision making. And it takes someone like Jean to bring them back to reality. And I think that's really cool foreshadowing. And I hope that it comes back later. That when we know Hange's going to become the commander of the Survey Corps now because Erwin's gone. But now that Hange's going to be the leader, I feel like Jean could be one of those central characters that could help keep Hange grounded. I think this whole dialogue set that up. It planted that seed. There's lots of seeds planted in this episode. Midnight Sun, right? Lots of seeds planted. But I think that could be really important moving forward, that they help each other like that. And so, God. And in that moment, Jean questions, they're like, why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? And then it cuts to Mikasa, and I thought Funimation was acting weird, but it was just her expression of being horrified and not knowing what to do. Like, she's just horrified because she's seen what Armin looks like. And Eren's like on the verge of tears, trying to get him to breathe again and knowing that he's still alive. It's so terrible. And seeing Mikasa this sad. And then Eren's like, let's get the syringe and go. And there's that hesitation. And Levi was doing it really slowly, thinking, there's no chance Erwin's alive. Fine. I'll hand it over. And in his head, God, his eyes are shadowed. You can tell whenever Isayama has a character contemplating and having doubts, you don't see their eyes, and you don't see Levi's at all. He doesn't want to show that emotion. And he's getting everything ready. And Eren's like, make Armin into a Titan and have him eat Bertolt. Yep. Like, that's what we can do. Hurry up. And God. And then he has the thing. And then Mikasa, I'm glad that she remembers. Mikasa's like, okay, wait, I'm going to tell them not to go ahead and kill Reiner. And she doesn't even hesitate. Mikasa's like, nah, get Reiner out of here. We're saving Armin. Damn. And in that moment, yeah, that's when the quadruped shows up. And Zeke, when Zeke looks fierce, he looks fierce, and he looks very scary. It's the weirdest thing. I'm not intimidated by Zeke. I probably should be. But when he's in the Beast Titan form, I'm intimidated by him. Yes, because he's really strong. But when he's just in his human form, I'm like, Zeke is so weird. Weird. But yeah, and then Jean saves Hange. Again, in that moment, here's what would have happened. What would have happened would have been if Jean hadn't been there or whatever and Reiner had been gone, the quadruped would have attacked them and probably would have killed them all. But Jean saved Hange in that moment. I love that shot. If you pause it, Jean, he looks so handsome with his hair pulled back, like rescuing Hange. Jean looks really good in this episode. It's a very sad episode for him to look good, but he does. But yeah, saves Hange. And then not good. The quadruped has him. Had got Reiner and left. And pieced out like a damn frog. And Connie was about to go after him, but then Hange and Jean were like, no, do not chase after. You will die. You will run out of gas and you will die. Yep. And poor Jean. Jean thinks at that moment that they've messed up. That it's his fault. That Reiner got away. And he says, I've done something terrible. And I love that Hange is like, no, I said the decision was mine. And in that moment, Hange became the commander of the Survey Corps. We could argue later that it's Hange later on when they talk to Mikasa, or later on when they confirm that Erwin's dead. But in that moment that Hange said the decision was mine. Hashtag no regrets. In that moment, I'm like, you just became the commander of the Survey Corps. There's no coronation yet, but that was the official, like, not letting Jean wallow in the pity of that decision. Hanji's like, no, I told you. We made the decision. We live with it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So then, yeah, there's the moment. I want to make it the thumbnail of Levi about to hand off the damn serum to Eren. We were so close to having just an episode where things were solved simply, weren't we? We were about to have that moment, and then this little redheaded shit shows up. I stand by my statement. FLOCH, you are a weird character. We need to talk about him. To give FLOCH credit, he did travel all the way through the wall and everything, carrying Erwin on his back wrapped around. We do need to give FLOCH credit for that. The dude single-handedly climbed up a damn house with, like, the 230 pounds of Erwin on his back. Like, FLOCH, my dude, you're ripped. Okay? I finally found you. Commander Erwin is badly wounded. Yeah. The blood won't stop. And, yeah, so what do you think? Should we give him the injection? And that seems in that moment like what a awful scenario. And in that moment, when he's about to hand it over, I want to get a shot of that too. When he's about to hand it over, he takes it back. No. Because God, this whole part here is dealing with what we're slaves to, what our own desires are, like the idea of, again, I'd probably fill up White Raccoon like 3 times at this point, but the idea of our desires and what we want versus what needs to happen. So you have Erwin and Armin. I joked last episode, I was like, man, how are we going to choose between the two of them? And here we are. It's the worst case scenario. They're two of my favorite characters in the show. One of them is going to die, but which one, right? It's going to be neither answer is wrong, right? But by the end, I think they make the right decision. By the end, Levi makes the right decision. So, but at the beginning, you have on Team Erwin, Levi, obviously. And you have Hange and FLOCH. On Team Erwin. Clearly. And then on Team Armin, you have Eren and Mikasa. And it all makes sense. It all makes sense because, and the funny thing is that I think FLOCH inadvertently influences Levi's decision to not give Erwin the serum, and we'll talk about that. But you have the two people closest to each of these characters obviously wanting them to be chosen. So Hange and Levi, who are so close to Erwin, want Erwin, and at first it makes sense. And then of course Eren and Mikasa are like, each side wants this entire rest of this episode, like we're not even at the halfway point, but the rest of this episode is like a giant metaphor for the whole series, for the whole conflict, right? In the weirdest of ways. It's like a giant metaphor for the whole conflict, like what decisions we make, why we make these decisions, what are we slaves to, how does that influence us, and how do we break free from all that? It's like Isayama is giving us a representation of all of these themes and everything in this one episode and saying like, okay, well, this is representing the entire series, so have fun. Because we have this injection that could save one of their lives that will give them the power of the Colossal Titan. That's huge. Literally. Pun intended. It's the power that could change the game, right? Right? And Eren is like, why are you hesitating? And Levi sees that he's still breathing. He's bleeding, but he's still breathing. And saying that he's alive too, just like Armin. And in that moment, Eren, he's realizing, oh my God, you're going to... And Mikasa's like, you're going to pick Erwin. And yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. He's using the injection on Erwin. And I love that when Eren getting up in Levi's face, I love that shot because one, Eren is taller than Levi. But two, like the looks on their face, like Levi has such the Ackerman look. And Eren just looking like, are you serious? And they're both two people fighting to save the lives of their best friend. Right? And Eren's like, but you said you were going to use it on Armin. And Levi's like, yeah, that was before I figured out that Erwin was alive. I'm reviving the one who can save humanity. And FLOCH has a weird look in that moment. FLOCH's just like, oh, the one who can save humanity. Okay. And then Mikasa obviously is like, no, you don't understand. Armin is like our best friend. You can't pick Erwin over him. And it's so hard. It's so hard because I love both of them so much. And I didn't want Erwin to die, but I didn't want Armin to die either. It's like Isayama was like, hey, remember these two characters that you really love and that I've made you really care for over the course of this season? Well, now one of them's going to die. But this whole episode's about what choice we make. And it's like, wow, Isayama, just gut us from the inside. Why don't you? And so we get a little reprieve from this to go back to Atop the Wall where you have the quadruped and Reiner. And Reiner, you were incredibly lucky. So we never got to see what was in all the crates, what was in the boxes with the other barrel. We never got to see that. I'm very curious what was actually in the barrel and crates, the crate and barrels, if you will. I'm very curious. We don't ever see that, so that's funny. I wonder if we'll ever find that out. But yeah, Reiner was lucky. And the worst part in all of this is that Reiner is going to eventually find out that Bertolt's dead, that his buddy's dead. And it's just him and Zeke. The quadruped. The quadruped does not look like the quadruped does not seem like good company. I guess is the best way to put it. They seem like they just pretty much do whatever Zeke wants. And Zeke, if it was just me and Zeke, I'm like, the conversation would get weird. So I kind of feel bad for Reiner in that regard. I really do. But, okay. Information available for public discourse. Injection conditions. Not only can Titan powers and much needed information be stolen by using the injection, I'm assuming that you get memories or something, but also allows the revival of someone who is critically wounded. The ideal candidate would be someone near death that is already close to an incapacitated enemy with Titan powers. So yeah, and then our picture is burnt to a crisp Armin and Erwin, and poor Levi having to choose, what do we do? But I love this. I love that all the characters in this, they're all fighting to save someone they care about. It's really, but it's kind of for selfish reasons too, except when Eren breaks through all that at the very end. And I feel so bad. Like the look on Mikasa's face, I argued last episode that we hadn't seen Mikasa as expressive as when Armin tells her that he has a plan and she's like, go get him. Mikasa in this episode, the emotions this girl shows, because she loves Armin, and like that, Eren and Mikasa love Armin. He's their closest friend, and the emotions that they show in this episode are so amazing. It's like, they're faced with something so tangible, like saving their friend, and it's just right outside their grasp. I really thought a battle was going to break out. I thought they were going to chase Levi or something was going to happen. I thought there was going to be like a battle, and there kind of is, like Levi kicks Eren's teeth out, but I thought there was going to be more to it than there was. But then old FLOCH starts talking. But yeah, it's, oh God, because there's no time for this. And Levi's like, I'm just trying to make the logical decision. And when Levi says, keep your emotions out of this, Eren's like, you're telling me to keep my emotions out? It's like clearly both of them are emotionally compromised, right? And that's where FLOCH comes in. Like, Eren and Mikasa are emotionally compromised because they want it for Armin for reasons, because he's their friend. Levi and Hange, even though they use the guise of that Erwin is the commander of the Survey Corps, etc., he needs the power, they care about him at the end of the day. So they are emotionally compromised too. It's FLOCH who's not. FLOCH is kind of our neutral party. And so when he goes over to Erwin's side, it's interesting. But the reasons why he goes over to Erwin's side, my dog, the reasons why he goes to Erwin's side is what I think ends up swaying Levi to give it to Armin. And then Eren brings up a good point. He's like, you didn't immediately go for Armin. Like, why not? And Levi, again, to Levi's character, he is very straightforward. He's very honest. He's like, there's no beating around the bush. He's like, my dog is like, my dog is like the Beast Titan. But yeah, Levi is not beating around the bush. He's like, no, I didn't give it to you immediately because I was hoping that we could go find Erwin. He's like, I didn't want to give it to Armin. I wanted to save it and see if we could find Erwin and save him. And yeah, he considered him being alive. It all makes sense. And Eren, you couldn't have known FLOCH would drag the commander here. Yeah, there's just no way you knew. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because to think about it, FLOCH climbed up a damn roof with Erwin on his back. Like, who would expect that, right? But that ties to it. That ties to Levi being emotionally compromised. That's how Eren knows. He's like, you had your emotions involved in this. You hesitated not because you thought it was logical that Erwin would magically show up, but because your emotions were involved and you were hoping that that was the case. So it's, oh God. Yeah, the between the two of them. And Levi's like, you're right. You're absolutely right. The fact that Erwin's now here means that I use it on him. He's like, that's it. The how we got here, the means are not important. And that when he smacks Eren and knocks his teeth out, oh my gosh. And then, yeah, Mikasa goes after him. Oh my gosh. And yeah, Mikasa is just gonna get the serum. Oh my gosh. His strength isn't all there. I can take it from him by force. Yeah. And then Levi tries to talk out. He's like, you know as well as I do, without Erwin's talent, humanity can't beat the Titans. And FLOCH agrees. So there's the argument of Erwin's talent, of why we should give him, we got like a pros and cons list of why we should do this. And Flock's like, yeah, that's right. Come on. And when Mikasa looks over to Flock, she's like, you shut your face. It's like, ooh! Like, she just gives him a look. And God, you could see, I didn't even notice that the first time around, but yeah, he kicked teeth out. If we lose Armin, it's no use. And God, I love this part. And Mikasa's like, Eren, don't get your teeth kicked. And then, but then Eren, God, I love Eren in this moment. I love him because he says the whole thing was that Armin was the reason that we stopped the thing at Trost. The reason we plugged up the hole and we cut to Pixis, everything. The reason we plugged up the hole was because of Armin. That was all his doing. He's like, the whole reason that we caught Annie was Armin's strategy. The way that we revealed Annie's identity. Because of Armin, that's how we got to know Annie and that she was the female Titan. And then the idea in season 2 of moving at night to get to Utgard. That was all Armin as well. That was Armin. And then the reason that we uncovered Reiner's hiding spot. And here's the thing. In that moment, Erwin put Armin in charge. Erwin trusted Armin and put him in charge. And then the whole reason that Bertolt is captured to begin with was all Armin. And I was like, yes, Eren is making amazing points in this. I fully agree. But then, when Eren says the one who's going to save humanity isn't me or the commander, that's what got me. That Armin is going to save humanity. Yeah. And I'm just like, scribble that in there. But yeah, Armin's going to be the one to save humanity. And I hadn't thought about that at all in this series. I'd always thought I commented in the last couple episodes, back in episode 16, I was like, well, Armin's like a support character, but he has potential, right? And then, my dog. But he has support, he has potential, right? But then in this episode, but in the last 2 episodes, I'm like, no, Armin can strategize. He came up, he was self-sacrificing, he was willing to gamble his own life to save everyone else's. You know, he wasn't, unlike Erwin, because Erwin was not afraid to gamble away people's lives. Armin would rather gamble his own life and save everyone else. And there's a big difference there. And Eren's saying, I know I'm not going to be the one to save humanity because I couldn't come up with all of this. Erwin couldn't come up with all this. Erwin did a lot. He did the flares. He did so many techniques towards capturing Titans and towards fighting them. But the one who's going to save humanity is going to be Armin. And it ties back to the scent. It ties back to the idea that Armin was wanting to create the dialogue. And I don't know if Eren even realizes this at this point. I don't think Eren realizes it to that extent. But if you think about it, I commented back in episode 15 that Armin is Armin Uri 2.0. He might be, and Armin might be the one to help create the paradise that Uri was talking about. Because Armin is compassionate. He's not a demon. When he asked Bertolt, he's like, am I a demon? And Bertolt said, no. I just said that, but you're not. That's the difference. Erwin was a demon, but Armin is not. And that's going to come out later. But yeah, when Eren said that, and he's bleeding and crying, and he's like, Mikasa, isn't that right? And she's like, yeah, just give me the syringe. But then Flock steps forward. And then Flock's like, no, the one who will save humanity is Commander Erwin. And I will give Flock this. Flock's got some balls, right? Flock has got some cojones because he just told Mikasa to shut up, that he wasn't going to shut up. Mikasa's like, shut your face. He's like, I will not shut up. And I was like, oh, okay, Flock. I don't know how to feel about Flock entirely because of this conversation. But yeah, he says, don't think you're the only ones who have had it tough. And he's like, you don't know it yet, but there isn't a single soldier alive on the other side. It was just him and Erwin. Everyone died on the other side, which is terrifying. And he's like, I didn't think anyone could be saved, but Commander Erwin was the only exception. Which is the irony, because he told Levi that he'd be the first to die. And with the exception of FLOCH, he's the last to die. Right? And then he made up the plan for them to fight the Beast Titan. He did. And FLOCH in this moment, when he's like, we did what we were told to, and we were smashed to bits just as planned. Damn, just as planned. And I'm sure the last thing that everyone felt was fear. Because that's what FLOCH felt, right? And so the idea, damn, and that look on his face when he finds Erwin. When he finds Erwin and Erwin's still alive, FLOCH doesn't look happy. No. He's not happy at all. He found the commander and I was about to finish him off. And at that point, Levi was like, excuse me? But that's going too easy on him. That's the thing. That's going too easy. I thought to myself that he ought to taste more of this hell. And Levi's like, oh. And that's I think at that point, that's when the seed is planted. FLOCH doesn't realize it, but he's planted a seed in Levi's head that Erwin doesn't deserve to die, basically, is what FLOCH is suggesting. FLOCH is like, these other soldiers, they're all dead. They're resting in peace. Erwin doesn't deserve that. He hasn't tasted enough hell. And so in FLOCH's mind, FLOCH's like, we need to turn him into a Titan so he can still live on. And he doesn't get to die while we all have to carry on. He needs to see what's happened. And that's a very interesting way to look at it. But I'm like, okay, FLOCH. FLOCH's character concerns me a little bit, because in that moment I was like, oh, you're a little bit twisted. Just a wee bit. Because that mentality of he deserves to taste more hell like we've suffered through. I'm like, oh, honey. I think if Hange hadn't showed up, Levi would have been like, what? And that's when FLOCH's like, then I understood. Yeah. The only one who can lay waste to the Titans is a devil. And Eren's like, who the hell is this kid? Yeah, Eren's face is so like, but the idea that Erwin, that a devil is the key to killing the Titans, to the Titan defeat. And Armin's not that, so that's so interesting. The idea there that FLOCH's bringing up, that, and it's kind of perpetuating the cycle, that logic that we need to fight like monsters. We can only defeat monsters if we become monsters ourselves. Oh my god! Yeah, so this whole episode, Isayama foreshadowed this like 2 seasons ago, because back in season 1, Jean and Armin were having the conversation about becoming a monster. The only way to fight a monster is to become one yourself. And Jean makes the comment, there should be another way. Is that the best decision? Yeah, we can fight monsters if we become them, but is that the best decision? Jean was challenging Armin in that moment. And then we go back to that idea, right? Because Armin kind of became a devil for a second to fight against Bertolt and Reiner for a second, but he didn't want to keep doing that. So he realized that wasn't perhaps the best idea. So he wanted to create that dialogue instead. And so FLOCH's argument is going back to that conversation from season 1, that the only way to fight monsters is to become them. The irony in all this is that Armin becomes a monster. But is he really a monster, though, on the inside? Right? So that's, God, Isayama foreshadowing this from the very start. Okay. And so then, yeah, FLOCH's argument is the argument that's been discussed this entire show. And then FLOCH's like, if I can bring back the devil, that must be my mission in life. And Mikasa's like, kill this kid. That has to be why I survived like a coward when everyone else died. Oh my god. So FLOCH is like, I'm a coward and I know it, but if my duty in life is to bring back the devil, I'll do it. I'm like, FLOCH's character is interesting. I gave him 9 kinds of hell for being like a little brat back in episode 12. I still don't necessarily like his character, but he's interesting. He has a very fascinating logic to his character, and he's so open about it too. That's the thing. He's so open about how much he, like, to openly say you wanted to bring your captain back so he could suffer is ballsy. It's ballsy. So that's so interesting. But yeah, so he lunges for it, and that's when Hange comes in. And I like that Levi stopped Mikasa, not because of the syringe, but because Mikasa was going to kill FLOCH. And Levi's like, we've had enough people die. Do not kill FLOCH. And that's when Hange steps in to stop her. Oh. And yeah, and then Hange takes Mikasa back, and then Jean and poor Jean and Connie and Sasha, them seeing Armin. Well, Sasha doesn't see him, thank God, because Sasha's passed out. But Hange sees both of them. And yeah, then Bertolt in the middle. And it goes back to that OP, damn it. And so yeah. And then and poor Mikasa crying and screaming. I wasn't ready for that voice actress to do this. Like, her voice actors, I wasn't ready for that. Nope. And Hange, who just showed up, probably missed most of that conversation, right? Hange probably missed most of that conversation about FLOCH bringing back the devil, and saying, you know how much we need Erwin. Yeah. We can't let the flames of hope extinguish inside the walls. So tying Erwin to being the flames of hope. Which I would argue, I think Armin could become that too, to be fair. You know? But yeah, and yeah, Mikasa says Armin could do that too! So speak of the devil, right? Mikasa's like, Armin could do that too. Yeah, and Hange acknowledges that Armin is exceptional, but he doesn't have the experience and the leadership. So Hange, oh God, I would argue that maybe of the two of them, Levi is way more emotionally compromised. Levi is the most emotionally compromised of Team Erwin. FLOCH is emotionally compromised, but not for Erwin's sake, to almost spite him. And then Hange is the most logical out of all this. Hange's like, yeah, Armin's exceptional, but Erwin has the leadership, the experience. But, damn. And then we don't see Mikasa's eyes either. And Hange acknowledges Mikasa being like, I know how you feel. There are people that I want to bring back too. And it's not just Moblet, it's so many, hundreds of them, she says. And that's when Mikasa kind of sees, from Hanji's point of view, I've had to say farewell since the day I joined the Scouts. And I wondered how Hange was saved, because I was like, there's no way they had time to get out of there. The explosion was right there. But Moblet saw the well and pushed Hange into the well, kind of like a storm shelter. And the eye that looks up and sees Moblet get blasted away. God, that's the eye that cracks because of it. Oh. And that's when, and Hange still had the spear, and that's when they see that Moblet just got decimated. No matter who it is, there comes a day to say farewell. Damn. No matter who it is, there comes a day to say farewell. Yeah, it's so awful. And Hanji's like, I know it's impossible, but you have to accept this. And it's so hard. It's so hard in that moment, because Hanji's like, I know there's no way I can understand how you feel, even though I understand the feeling of loss. I know that losing Armin is hard, but this is a decision we have to make, and we have to make it for seemingly what's best for everyone. And God, there will be times that you can't keep your sanity, and it's tough. And again in that moment, Hange becomes the commander of the Survey Corps, because Hange leads them all through it, being like, this is the decision we have to make. But Hange leaves the decision to Levi. Leaves the serum to Levi, right? So I love that Hange in this episode is getting to become the leader of the Survey Corps. And wrapping their arms around Mikasa, we have to keep moving forward. Like, Hange isn't restraining Mikasa. tightly. Hange is barely holding on to Mikasa. It's more like Hanji's hugging Mikasa, like comforting her and saying, we have to keep moving forward. It's okay. And at this point, Mikasa's barely even grabbing a hold of Hanji's arm. Like, yeah, that's just how it is. And it gets Mikasa to accept it because that they're losing Armin. Yep. And it's such a terrible moment. And then, yeah, Mikasa slowly lowers the hand. And Levi tests the syringe out. And then in that moment, yeah, Eren... At this point, I'm sure that my reaction was really, really dull. Because I was just, at this point, like, on the verge of either crying or just, like, what we do, show. But yeah, Eren looking so miserable and saying, do you know about the sea? Do you know about the sea? No matter how far you look, it stretches past the horizon. And just taking Armin's words, it's a gigantic lake. And then saying that Armin said, and then FLOCH coming in. I was like, Eren was about to have a beautiful monologue, and you little redheaded punk come in, try to silence him. And Eren's like, there's a sea beyond the walls. And he said we'd go there together. Damn. And Levi in that moment, you know, in the moment in the episode, I was like, Levi is connecting to Isabel and Farland in that moment and thinking about his friends and how they made that promise and how it fell through and it couldn't happen. And then Levi was there when they were talking to each other about it. And Eren's like, that was our dream since we were little and I forgot it long ago. And then Armin reminded him. And that's the thing, that Eren... The thing about Armin saving humanity, that got me. But when Eren said that about the dream that they had, that Eren had been so focused by avenging his mom and killing the Titans, Eren's like, I had been so focused on that, I'd forgotten that dream. And Eren's saying, the only thoughts in my head are full of hate, but he's not like that. Yeah, not full of hate. And Eren acknowledging that he's only had these hateful thoughts, but that Armin isn't like that. That's what got me. I thought, no, it's Eren knowing that is huge. Like, it's, God, Armin cares about more than just fighting. He has dreams. And Levi in that moment, like Levi looking down because he knows it's true. It's not just about fighting, it's about that dream that they have. But he's like, I can't. He's like, I have to do it. I'm going to have Erwin eat Bertolt. God. Nah, man, you know, it's so beautiful in a way that Armin, it's like Armin becomes, he was burnt. It's a phoenix. It's a phoenix metaphor, you know? It's a phoenix metaphor that Armin, he was like incinerated and burnt down to his core. And then he's reborn as a Titan shifter. He's reborn as the Colossal Titan. And then Bertolt's eaten and it all comes full circle. It's crazy, right? So yeah, that's when he tells everybody to leave. He's like, get out. And Hanji takes Mikasa. And at that point, and yeah, Jean's just like, shit. And God, and Connie saying, see ya, Armin. That got me. I was like, oh, honey. And then, yeah, FLOCH takes Eren. That's so damn sad. It's so sad. And then we cut back to Armin. The flashback from episode 12. The flashback episode 12. And Levi knows, he remembers that same moment too because he was there. It's like Isayama was foreshadowing this whole thing by having Levi present to hear that speech about the sea. Like, he had him sitting there for a reason. There's so much foreshadowed from this episode. It's kind of amazing. I'm amazed by it. And it looks like snow. The ashes falling from Bertolt, the ashes falling from Bertolt, it looks like snow. And then there's this point. There's this point. Armin had a plan beyond the walls. That's what I wanted to get to. That at that moment, I wondered if Levi was gonna change his mind. Because at that moment, it's like we have two different dreams. The dream to find out the information in the basement, and the dream to go beyond the walls. And Eren was setting up to Levi that Armin had a plan beyond the walls. Armin wanted to go to the sea, so he had a plan to take humanity there, to get past the walls. Erwin didn't have a plan. He just wanted to get the information, and then once he got the information, he'd figure out something there. But here's the thing with that. As much as I love Erwin didn't care what was beyond the basement. Armin does. So the horrifying thing about all this, as much as I love Erwin, is that after the basement, the info, would Erwin have been as gung-ho about humanity getting outside the walls once he found out it was in the basement? Or would it have been once he had achieved his dream, he just wouldn't have had a reason to keep going forward, right? That's what I wonder. Whereas Armin, his dream is pretty much limitless. Like, there's so much potential beyond the walls. And in that moment, he's like, Levi's wondering, like, am I making the right choice? If I bring back Erwin and we get to the basement and we find out the information, what happens then? What if nothing happens then? What if I'd made it? You can tell that Levi is starting to regret the decision. He's starting to regret the decision. And Levi's always lived by that principle to not do that. Because he goes back to Erwin telling him that he just wants to go to the basement. And he's willing to sacrifice it all for it. He says, good grief. They're all the same. Whining like brats one after another. And here's the thing. Levi makes that note. He's like, they're all whining one after another. But then he cuts to Kenny. And Kenny says everyone had to be drunk on something to keep pushing on. Everyone was a slave to something. And that stops Levi in his tracks. Everyone was a slave to something. God. But there's more than that. But in that moment, the slave to something, Armin sees past it. If he's a slave to freedom, there's something beyond that, right? And God. And Levi hesitating. And honestly, if we're talking about the what ifs, all of Levi's hesitation, it gave Erwin enough time to slap the syringe out of his hand. And that last moment, and yeah, this is what got me, is that he slapped the syringe out of his hand when he was about to give it to him. And it juxtaposed to him as a kid. And then God, the voice actor for Erwin deserves all the props, because this moment of him just like barely whispering it, his last words, teacher, how do we know there's not more humans outside the walls? God, and he's, about to die. And it's like in that moment, that's what Levi needed. Is that he wanted the same, at the very end, he wanted to find out the truth, to know if his father was right. And him questioning, how do we not know what's beyond the walls? That was Armin's dream. That's what he wanted. And so it's like those dreams are connected with each other. And Levi had told him to give up on his dream and die and lead the recruit straight into hell. And in that moment, Levi realizes that Erwin had become free. He had freed Erwin from what he was a slave to. And Erwin had made peace with it. The moment that we get extra here, I'm sorry, but the moment that Erwin, he looks at Levi with so much compassion. And the softest look on his face, and he tells Levi, thank you. And Kenny giving him the serum. Yeah. And in that moment, Levi made the decision. God. Oh my God. And yeah. So then, because he realized that Erwin was no longer a slave to wanting that knowledge. Him thinking Levi, Erwin had accepted his fate. He had accepted his fate, and knew that he was going to die, and it was okay. And he had made peace with that, and he was free from that slavery to the truth. And in that moment, when he raised his hand and said the phrase he asked his father as a child, it gives Levi the confirmation that Erwin did want to find out what was beyond the walls, but he wasn't going to be able to carry that vision on if he was still a slave to something. But Armin might be different. And so then we have Bertolt waking up. Oh my God. And honestly, the Marco parallels. And so the Armin Titan as just like with the bowl cut and everything, and he's all emaciated, which granted he was burnt to a crisp when he was transformed, so I'm sure maybe that has something to do with it. But again, the sudden visitor OVA kind of foreshadowed this a little bit with Armin turning into a Titan, right? Right? I don't think all of our characters are going to turn into Titans, but it's funny that Armin is able to. And then Bertolt for a second is like, oh shit. Yeah, and he gets taken by him. Oh my God. The horrifying part of all of this is that when Bertolt is so panicked because he's about to die, he looks over, and if you pause it, I noticed it in the reaction. If you pause it, when he looks over and sees the others, he smiles because he thinks for a second in his hysteria, he thinks that they're going to help him. And they don't. He looks over and they're all crying, and Connie and Mikasa are crying, and Eren and Jean are like, oh my God. And he says, help me. And then when he realizes they're not going to help him, I want to make a note up until the very end. He says, Annie, Reiner. He called out for Annie and he called out for Reiner. But nope. Oh God. And then it just squishes his head, and that's the nape. It eats him. And they all watched him. And then from further away, there's FLOCH with the captain. And then they ask him, why'd you do it? And then here's the thing. Levi says, do you think you can forgive him? That he had no choice but to become a devil. So it was us who wished for that. So the idea that Erwin became a devil because it's what humanity needed at the time. They needed to fight monsters, so Erwin became one. And he's like, he kind of calls FLOCH out in a way, I think, because he's like, can you forgive him? He's like, would you have been able to forgive him? You wanted him to become a monster again, to suffer, to suffer with the knowledge of what he'd done with this mission. So they're like, could you forgive him? Like, what? We made him into a monster. But in the end, when he had finally been set free from hell, I love that line. In the end, when he'd finally been set free from hell, we wanted to bring him right back to it. Yeah. He had finally been freed, and we wanted to just bring him right back. I love that line. It's God. But the circumstances changed. Before all of this, before the series started, Erwin was what humanity needed. But it's not now. And that's what Levi is saying. Like, he finally made peace and was able to move on, and we were just going to drag him back through the mud. I think it's time to let him rest. Oh. And he looks so at peace there. It's kind of crazy. And then Armin falls down and starts to... And the crazy thing is, the moment... It's like the biggest cycle, right? Because in that moment... Levi's like, I promised I'd kill the Beast Titan, but it's going to have to wait. And Hange's like, he's dead. Ugh. And Levi looks so sad in that moment. when he realizes it. And you know what the funny thing is? And Levi's like, I see. And why does he have to look so sad? Why does Levi have to look like so sad? Why would you do this, show? Why would you do this? And the thing of it is, the moment that Erwin dies is the moment that Armin's reborn. That's the cycle of it all. The cycle of it is that the moment that Erwin passes is the moment that Armin's Titan collapses and he comes out of it. And Eren's standing there like crying. Eren is so happy to see him. And Mikasa's crying and Connie's crying. They're all just crying around Armin. And he's back. God. And that's the end. Yeah. It's funny. I'm sad that Erwin died, but now I do kind of feel more at peace about it. I'm still going to film what I originally planned for the recap video. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because I originally didn't want Erwin to die at all, and I've been like so dreading it this entire series. Ever since season 2, I've been dreading Erwin's death because you know it's coming. You know that it's going to happen. He's one of the key players. He's the commander of the Survey Corps. You just knew it was coming. But the way that this series handled it, the way that it showed him at the end of it all, that death was mercy for Erwin, that Erwin could finally rest in peace. And the fact that Erwin had made amends, that he wasn't going to get to that basement. They're going to get to the basement now and find all this out for Erwin. And I'm like, oh my God, there better be something in that basement. That's all I can say. There better be some information in that damn basement. Zeke does not seem to have known about the basement. So that's interesting to know. Zeke didn't know anything about it. So that's good to know. But yeah, the fact that Erwin, I guess he'll get to see in spirit, right? But the fact that they just let Erwin go. I feel like Erwin at the end, he looks so peaceful there. It's like, yeah, no. He rest in peace, you know. It was fitting. Armin gets reborn and gets to take his place in the Survey Corps. I'm assuming that's going to be fascinating. That's going to be interesting to see how. Here's the problem with it all. Armin probably thought he was going to die. I hadn't even thought about this. How's Armin going to react to all this, right? Would Armin have been like, you guys should have used it on Erwin? Because Eren had a big existential crisis when he found out the circumstances of how he became a Titan. So how's Armin going to react to all this, right? And especially learning that he ate Bertolt. How's that going to work? I do feel at least that Eren and Armin both... Who knew at the start of this series that Eren and Armin would become Titans? I had no clue in mind that Armin would become a Titan. I was like, are you kidding me? I could have pegged Levi becoming a Titan. I thought about that. I was like, okay, well, Levi could become a Titan. I thought about Erwin becoming a Titan. But Armin never crossed my mind. Didn't even think about it. So yeah, that's fascinating. Okay. So yeah. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to be very curious when Armin wakes up to see how he deals with what all has happened. And how this all goes down. I mean, they're obviously happy he's alive, but... And what everyone else thinks, too, because that's going to be the thing, too. What is Historia and the council going to think of Erwin dying? Like, how are they going to spin this? How are they going to be like, well, I guess the only ones that are alive to tell the tale are the Levi squad and FLOCH. The question is FLOCH going to be a little shit and rat out everybody that they killed Erwin and let him die to give Armin the powers? Or what's going to happen? So there's still a lot of tension and unresolved things that could happen when they get back to inside the walls that I'm really nervous about. Yeah, really nervous about. So I don't know how we're going to deal with all of that once they get back inside the walls. That's going to be the big trial. I mean, they plugged up Wall Maria. They plugged up both sides. So mission accomplished. Just another day for the Survey Corps. Mission accomplished. We did it. It only cost all but 7 people out of hundreds. Yeah, when they get back, it's not going to be good. It's not, this is a feel-good moment now because Armin's lived, but I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad when they get back because they're going to have to answer to everything and explain what all went down. So I guess we'll worry about that when it happens, right? But I do want to go back and talk about the damn mid-credit scene that y'all told me to watch. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to put my headphones on and listen to it. I'll tell y'all when I start it, but let's get this going. Okay. So I want to go back to the mid-credit scene from episode 12, right? All right. We're going to go back to episode 12. And we're going to go to that mid-credit scene and see what all I missed. See what I missed. See what a fun time this is. What a fun foreshadowing this all is, right? Oh, look, everybody's cheering him on. It's great. Erwin's getting on his horse in the twilight. It's wonderful. Who knew? Fun times. Oh, my God. Okay, so I'm going to start this here right where it kicks off. Right where the record scratches. All right. I'm at where the droplet of blood enters the water. We're going to be there in 3, 2, 1. And let's see this mid-credit scene. Okay. Let's see this. Oh, and it's still breaking up. Oh, what? Oh, the basement key. What? There's a person? What is happening? Excuse me? What? Oh no! There was symbolism. Oh. Oh, they haven't shown us Armin though. They haven't shown us Armin. So, oh my God. Oh! Is that it? Okay. Huh. You don't say. Okay. Well, I'm still glad I didn't watch that. Okay, no, I'm glad I didn't watch that. I'm glad I didn't watch that. Yeah, because, okay, they didn't show us Armin, to be fair. They didn't show us Armin or Erwin. But the moment with Mikasa and Eren and Levi in the standoff, that was such a tense moment that I feel like if I'd watched it now, if I'd watched that then, I would have been like, wait, what? And I'd have been like, oh, it would have taken the tension out. I'm glad I didn't watch it. Okay, but there's some symbolism, some shit right at the beginning there. I'm not going to go back and rewatch it. No. I'm not going to do that. I think somebody had commented way back right before the recap. Someone had said, it's a good thing you didn't watch the mid-credit scene because there's also things that happen that won't be tied in until even after episode 18. And I was like, huh. And that's it. There was some shots of symbolism. There was Grisha. There was the Titan that ate Carla. There's a woman with her hair pulled back that looks kind of like Historia. It's a very Victorian looking picture. There's her in this. I don't know. And there's bees and the praying mantis and all that again. Okay. The bees, I'm like, is it the queen bee? Is she the main daughter? Is the woman there the main daughter? Oh, I'm not going to go back and rewatch it though. I've seen it now. I feel good seeing it. I'm not going to go back and rewatch it because we still have 4 more episodes. But I am glad I did not watch it. I know a lot of you wanted to see my reaction, and I'm sure I would have had this look on my face all the time. Probably. But I'm glad I didn't watch it in hindsight because otherwise I feel like it would have just been like, nah. Man, though. Yeah, the imagery, the symbolism, all of that. God. It's been so good. This episode is one of my favorite in the series because of Eren defending Armin. And that's the thing too. And Eren and Mikasa, and Eren treating Mikasa equally. Like, I feel like this is some of Eren's best character work in the series so far, It's definitely Mikasa's best character work. I like Mikasa, her emotions and expression more in this episode than maybe Scream. There's so many characters in this episode. Hange's decisions, like Hange's character work, so good. Jean, so good. FLOCH, the hell, so good. Eren and Mikasa, so good. And then them all banding together and then making this decision. So, questions going forward. One, are we going to tie back to the Beast Titan and Reiner before the end of this season? I don't know. We're moving into Act 3 of this season. We've ended Act 2 with our Armin boy being reborn. We've ended Act 2, so there's that. But now we're moving into Act 3. So my questions are we going to see what happened to Ymir? Is that going to be revealed, what happened to Ymir? And are we going to get to see that before the end of the season? I don't know. Will the letter get to Historia? I feel like while we're in Shiganshina, we might as well check out the basement. We made it this far. And Erwin didn't get to see what was in the damn basement. God. You know, like you do. But yeah. So we still got to see what's in the basement. That letter's got to get to Historia, hopefully. We've got to find out what happens to Ymir. Are we going to go back to Zeke and Reiner? I don't know. Armin, we've got to deal with him finding out what's happened to him. I want Eren to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with Armin. Now, they're kind of on equal footing. You know? Armin's a Titan shifter like Eren now. And, oh my god, yeah, you have the king and queen chess pieces on the same side of the board. Right? Right? You have Armin's got the queen piece, Bertolt, and Eren's got the coordinate, the founding titan. Yeah, that's just... you have the two strongest titans on the same side of the board now. And then you also have the Ackermans. I was going to say that back in episode 6, the rule of 6, you had, in episode 6, the Ackerman power kicking in with Mikasa. So that ties to this whole founding titan, the Ackermans defending the royal family and all that. In episode 6, season 1, you had the reveal that the Ackerman power exists, and we see it happen with Mikasa. We get Reiner and Bertolt's introduction in episode 6, officially as the Titans. And then we have Eren accepting all that with Grisha in season 3, part 1, and now you have Armin becoming the new Colossal Titan. I'm curious to know what Armin looks like as the Colossal Titan, because Eren, when he ate Grisha, looked like a little Titan version of his kid self, and this Titan version of Armin looks like Armin. So I'm curious to know, Bertolt's Titan form as a Colossal Titan didn't really look like Bertolt necessarily, so I'm curious to know if that's going to be a thing. I don't know. I'm so curious now. This opens up so many doors. This opens up so many doors to what could happen next. But we got to find out what's in the basement. So yeah, I've never been more excited, more curious, and I have no clue what we're going to do now. And we still have 4 episodes left of this season. So, I'm so curious to know what y'all thought about these episodes. I'm sorry if my reaction was kind of subdued and somber, but that was the nature of this episode. So yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Holy crap. But yeah, next episode, we're going to have episode 19 of Attack on Titan Season 3. We've got 4 left to go. We'll start off the year great, right? So in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next time with episode 19 of Season 3 of Attack on Titan. Bye.